I never meant to fall in love with him, not really. It was never part of the plan. I was 37, a single mom, working 2 part-time jobs, and trying to hold my life together with coffee and duct tape. And he was my best friend's older brother, Liam Carter, ex-Army, strong jawline, quiet as a ghost, and carrying the kind of sadness that didn't scream, it whispered. Liam had returned from deployment 3 months ago. He moved into his sister's basement temporarily to figure things out, which is a phrase people use when they're too broken to admit they're falling apart. I hadn't seen him in years, not since his last leave 6 years ago, but he still had that same intense gaze, the kind that makes you feel like he sees every truth you've tried to bury. And one rainy Friday, our lives touched in a way that neither of us could undo. It was 6:30 p.m. I'd just gotten off my shift at the diner, shoes soaked, ponytail limp, and my back aching from leaning over tables all day. My babysitter canceled last minute, and my son Max, who's 7 and has a heart as big as the sky, was stuck at my friend Jenna's place, Liam's sister. When I reached her porch, Jenna had already left for her night shift at the hospital. But Liam answered the door. I blinked. "Hey, I'm here for Max." He stepped aside. "Come in. He's coloring in the living room." I nodded, stepping past him. I could smell rain, old wood, and something clean. Maybe soap? He wore a gray t-shirt that clung to his chest in all the right ways, and a pair of jeans with paint stains. He must have been working on that old shed out back, Jenna kept complaining about. "Thanks for watching him," I said, kneeling beside Max, who barely looked up from his superhero drawings. Liam leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "No problem. He's a good kid." There was a moment, just a flicker, where our eyes met, and I felt warmth. Not romantic. Not then. More like relief. The kind of peace you don't expect after a long day. Max insisted on showing me every drawing he made. I laughed, even though I was exhausted, and Liam just stood there silently, watching. When Max went to grab his backpack, I turned to Liam and smiled. "Really? Thank you." I don't usually trust people to watch him. He nodded, then said quietly, "You look tired." I let out a laugh, dry and low. "That's polite code for 'you look like crap,' huh?" He shook his head, stepping forward. "No, it's code for 'you're carrying too much alone.'" Something cracked in me. I hadn't heard words like that in years. My ex never noticed. My parents thought I was strong enough to survive anything, and my friends, they were too busy with their own storms. But Liam, he saw me. He really saw me. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was sleep-deprived. Maybe I was too tired of pretending. Maybe it was just the way he said it, like it wasn't judgment, just truth. But I reached for him. Not to kiss him, not to do anything inappropriate, just a hug. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around his waist, my head resting lightly against his chest. I expected a quick, polite pat on the back, something awkward. But instead, he hugged me back. Not just a return hug, a real one. His arms came around me, slow but firm, like he was afraid I'd fall apart if he held me too roughly. One hand pressed to the middle of my back, the other curled around my shoulder. I felt the weight of his breath near my ear. And then I melted. Something in me let go. I hadn't been touched like that in years, not lovingly, not gently, not without expectation. I closed my eyes, just for a second. But the second became 10, then 20. He didn't let go. Neither did I. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It wasn't lustful, it was something else, something deeper, something that made my throat tighten and my heart ache in a way that felt new and familiar all at once. I heard him whisper, You don't have to carry everything by yourself, Ellie. And I don't know why, but those words broke me open. A tear rolled down my cheek, and before I could hide it, Liam's hand gently moved to the back of my head. He held me closer. I'm fine, I whispered. No, you're not, he said quietly. And that's okay. I didn't want to pull away. That terrified me. Because for someone like me, who'd been surviving on her own for years, one long hug shouldn't have felt like home. But it did. Max called out from the hallway. Mom, can we go? We pulled away, slowly, like two people afraid the world might crash the moment we separated. Liam cleared his throat. I wiped my cheek with the sleeve of my hoodie and smiled awkwardly. Thanks again, really. He nodded. Anytime. As I walked Max to the car, my heart was racing. Not because I was in love, but because something had changed. Something small, something quiet, but something real. That night I couldn't sleep, not because of anything romantic, but because my body still remembered how it felt to be held like that. Safe, seen, and part of me didn't want to let go. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror, toothbrush in hand, and stared at myself like I didn't recognize the woman looking back. There was no makeup on my face, no glamour, just tired eyes and that crease between my brows that never seemed to go away. But something felt different. I wasn't thinking about bills, or the stack of dishes in the sink, or the laundry that smelled like it had lived two lives. I was thinking about him. Liam. That hug. That moment that shouldn't have meant anything and yet somehow meant everything. It lingered in my chest like a soft ache. All day, I tried to shake it off. I took Max to the park, I went grocery shopping, I answered emails and scheduled appointments and returned calls, but every quiet second my mind circled back to his voice, his arms around me, the safety I didn't even know I was missing until I felt it. And then he texted me. Liam, hey, you left Max's red water bottle here. Want me to drop it off? I stared at the message for too long, my thumb hovering over my phone. I could have said no. I could have told him to just leave it on Jenna's porch. But instead, I typed, sure, we're home. He showed up 20 minutes later. Max was in the living room, watching cartoons. I opened the door, and there he was. Same gray hoodie, same quiet eyes, holding that ridiculous water bottle like it was made of gold. Thanks, I said, reaching for it. But he didn't hand it over right away. His eyes met mine, and there was a pause, a hesitation, like he was about to say something but hadn't decided if he should. "Can I come in?" he asked. My heart thudded in my chest. Yeah, of course." He stepped inside, slipping off his boots at the door. The house wasn't exactly clean. There were toys scattered on the floor and an open box of cereal on the counter. But he didn't seem to care. I set the water bottle down and turned to him. "Did Jenna send you?" He shook his head. "No, I just wanted to check on you." I blinked. He leaned against the kitchen counter, hands tucked into the front pocket of his hoodie. "Because last night didn't feel like just a hug," he said, voice low. "It felt like you needed something you weren't getting anywhere else." I swallowed hard, heat rising to my face. "I'm fine," I said, too fast. He raised an eyebrow. "You keep saying that." Well, it's true. But even as I said it, I knew I sounded defensive, too sharp, too practiced. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I get it. I used to tell people I was fine too, right before I couldn't sleep for 4 nights straight and broke down in a Walmart parking lot." That made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was so real. He smiled faintly. "You know what I've learned? People who are really fine don't have to keep saying it." I sighed, crossing my arms. What are you trying to do here, Liam? He paused. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just here. That's all. And somehow those words disarmed me more than anything else could have. I looked at him. Really looked. This man who had seen war, who had lost friends, who had carried ghosts back with him and still somehow stood there like a calm after the storm. And I realized he understood what it meant to survive. Maybe that's why I let my guard down again. "Gonna want coffee?" I asked. He nodded, always. We sat at my tiny kitchen table, mugs in hand. Max peeked in once to ask for a snack, then disappeared again with a granola bar and a juice box. And Liam? He stayed. We talked about nothing at first, about weather, about his shed project, about Max's drawing skills, but slowly the conversation deepened. He told me about a friend he lost overseas, about waking up some nights not knowing where he was, about how quiet felt like a blessing and a curse all at once. I told him about Max's dad, how he left when Max was barely 2, how I'd spent years blaming myself, how I still flinched when someone asked about my marriage. We talked for over an hour, and then just as he stood up to leave, I said it. That hug, it meant something to me. He looked at me, expression unreadable. "Me too," he said, "but it doesn't have to mean more than what you're ready for." I nodded, biting my lip. "I don't know what I'm ready for." He stepped closer. Not too close, but close enough that I could feel his presence like gravity. "That's okay, Ellie," he said. "I'm not in a rush. I just don't want you to feel alone anymore." And again, just like before, I felt my chest tighten. Not from fear, but from the quiet possibility of something I hadn't allowed myself to want in years. He reached out, slowly, gently, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "Just don't push me away." I nodded, unable to speak. And then he left. No kiss, no promises, just a look, a lingering look that stayed with me long after the door closed. That night I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what might be waiting for me if I was brave enough to let it in. Days turned into a week, and Liam didn't push. He didn't text constantly. He didn't show up uninvited. But he checked in, always with that quiet warmth that made everything feel less heavy. Sometimes it was just a simple, "How was your day?" or "Tell Max I said hi." Other times, it was a knock on the door and a bag of groceries with a note. "Thought you could use a break." And strangely, I started looking forward to him. Max did too. Liam had this quiet way of making my son feel seen. He didn't talk to him like a child. He listened. And Max lit up whenever Liam helped him build Legos or taught him how to throw a football in the front yard. One Thursday evening, Jenna invited both of us over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, garlic bread, and a bottle of wine. The kids were in the backyard playing, and I sat across from Liam at the table, my heart doing that fluttering thing it always did when he was near. Jenna grinned at me when Liam stepped out to take a call. "You two getting close, huh?" she asked, nudging my elbow. I rolled my eyes. "It's not like that." She raised an eyebrow. "Ellie, the way he looks at you, you sure?" I stared at my wine glass. "I don't know what this is yet. I don't even know if I'm ready for it." She softened. "Liam's not in a hurry. He's been through too much to rush anything. But that man, he's solid, and he cares about you." Her words hung in the air long after Liam came back inside. Later that night, after Max had fallen asleep in the car on the way home, Liam offered to carry him in. He cradled my son like he was something precious. his strong arms gently scooping Max up as if he were weightless. I watched from the doorway as he laid Max down on his bed and tucked the covers up to his chin. Then he turned to me. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low in the dim hallway. I nodded, my throat thick. "Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen someone care about him like that, not since—" I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't have to. Liam stepped closer, and I didn't back away. "You both deserve more," he said softly. "And I know I'm not perfect, Ellie, but I'm here for as long as you'll let me be. And I don't know what made me do it, but I reached for his hand. It was a simple touch, no sparks, no fireworks, just warmth, real, honest. "I don't know what I'm doing," I whispered. "Neither do I," he replied, squeezing gently, "but we'll figure it out." The next few days felt like a strange kind of bloom, like spring after a long winter. Liam came over more often, sometimes for dinner, sometimes to help with house repairs. Once, he just sat on the couch while I folded laundry, and we talked about the dumbest things. TV shows, high school memories, what we'd do if we won the lottery. And still, we hadn't kissed, not once. It was like we were both dancing on the edge of something neither of us wanted to name out loud. One evening, Max was at a sleepover, and Liam came by with takeout, Thai food, and coconut ice cream. We sat on the living room floor, surrounded by empty containers, and he looked at me with a smile that made my stomach flip. "You know," he said, "I never thought I'd feel this normal again." I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. The war, the noise, the weight of it all, it messes with you. Even when it's over, your mind stays in that place. But being here, with you, with Max, it's like breathing again." I felt my heart twist. "Do you have nightmares?" I asked gently. He nodded. "Sometimes, not as often now. Being around you, it quiets things." We sat in silence for a moment, and then, without thinking, I reached up and touched his face. His eyes closed at my touch, his jaw relaxed, and then finally, he leaned in. Our lips met softly, cautiously, like two people who'd been holding back for too long. It wasn't a movie kiss. There was no dramatic music or spinning camera angles. It was real, warm, slow. His hand slid behind my neck and mine clutched the front of his hoodie. When we pulled away, I exhaled shakily. "I didn't plan for this," I whispered. "Me neither," he said, forehead resting against mine. "But I don't want to fight it anymore." I laughed quietly. "You think we're crazy?" He smiled. "Definitely." We sat there for a long time, fingers intertwined, not saying much, just existing, just feeling safe. It scared me how much I wanted him to stay. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to lose him. I'd survived for so long on my own that needing someone felt dangerous, but with Liam, it didn't feel like weakness, it felt like healing. I got up, walked to the window, and looked out at the quiet street. And I whispered to the night, "Please, don't let this be temporary." Because for the first time in a long time, something in my life felt like it belonged. And I couldn't let go. The morning after our kiss, I woke up with a strange mixture of calm and panic fluttering in my chest. Calm because something about Liam felt right, like the chapter I didn't know I'd been waiting to read. Panic because I had no idea how to live inside something good without waiting for it to fall apart. I made coffee and stared out the kitchen window, watching the breeze move the trees in slow, sleepy waves. It had rained the night before, and everything looked washed clean. Then my phone buzzed. "Liam, hey, want company? Thought I'd bring donuts." I stared at the message, smiling in spite of myself. Me, only if they're the cinnamon kind. Liam, would I even show up with anything else? 20 minutes later, he was at my door, hair damp from a quick shower, holding a brown paper bag that smelled like heaven. Max was still asleep, and the quiet of the house made everything feel even more intimate. He handed me the bag, then leaned in for a kiss, a short, soft one that still made my heart race. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, I admitted, as we sat at the table picking at donuts. For something to go wrong. Liam looked at me seriously. Why? Because that's how life has worked for me, I said. Every time I've let myself believe in something, it's disappeared. People leave, love fades, trust breaks. He reached across the table, took my hand. Ellie, I'm not them. I'm not walking away just because things get messy. I've lived through worse than messy. I want this, whatever it is we're building here. The sincerity in his voice struck something deep inside me. And what if I mess it up? I whispered. Then we talk, we fight, we fix it. That's what people who care do. That was the thing about Liam. He didn't offer me fairy tales or empty promises. He offered something real, something earned. The weeks that followed were some of the happiest I'd known in years. Liam didn't try to replace anyone. He didn't rush anything. He simply showed up. He helped Max with his science project. He fixed the broken cabinet door without being asked. He brought soup when I got sick, held my hair back when I threw up, and kissed my forehead like I was something sacred. He learned my coffee order, the way I took my eggs, the songs I hummed when I was nervous. I learned that he slept with a fan on, even in winter. That he hated surprises. That he never left a room without checking that the lights were off. We were learning each other, not in grand, sweeping gestures, but in everyday moments. And slowly, I felt myself trusting again. One night, Max was in bed and Liam and I were curled up on the couch. My head rested against his shoulder and his arm was wrapped tightly around me. He broke the silence. Would you ever want more? I lifted my head. More? He looked at me, eyes steady. I mean, a real future. A family. Maybe not today, not even this year, but eventually. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't want it, but because wanting it scared the life out of me. I think I do, I said finally, but I'm still learning how to believe in it. You deserve someone who's whole, Liam. He shook his head. No, I deserve someone who's honest, who shows up, who holds on even when she's scared. And that's you. Tears stung my eyes. I turned into his chest and held him tight. It started with a hug, and now every time we touched, I found pieces of myself I thought I'd lost. Then, one Saturday morning, my past came knocking. Literally. I opened the door to see Mac's father standing on the porch. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. He looked thinner, different, but that same smirk played on his lips. Ellie, he said, like it hadn't been years of silence, I was in town. Thought I'd see my son. Liam wasn't home. Thank God. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. You don't get to just show up, I snapped. I have a right, he argued. He's my kid, too. You gave up that right when you left, when you didn't even call for birthdays, for school plays, for any of it. His expression hardened. Look, I messed up, but I want to make things right. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. You don't get to make demands now. Max is happy. He's safe. He doesn't need more confusion. He scoffed. You seeing someone? I didn't answer. You are, he said. Is that who you're protecting? I stood tall. No. I'm protecting my son and myself. He stepped back, defeated. You've changed. Yeah, I said. He left without another word, and I walked back inside, closed the door, and leaned against it, breathing deep. Max peeked out from the hallway. Who was that, Mom? Just someone from the past, I said. Someone who doesn't matter anymore. He nodded, like he understood. And I believed he did. That night, I told Liam everything. He didn't get angry. He didn't go silent. He simply took my hands and asked, "Are you okay?" And that question, simple as it was, brought me to tears. I am now, I said, because you're here. Months passed. The seasons changed. And one evening, as Max played in the yard, Liam pulled a small velvet box from his jacket. I froze. He opened it, revealing a simple gold ring. No diamond, just a promise. I don't need a wedding tomorrow, he said. I just need to know you'll keep letting me love you. One day at a time. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Yes, I whispered, one day at a time. He slid the ring onto my finger, and I leaned into his chest, breathing in that familiar scent. Comfort, warmth, safety. It had started with one long hug, and somehow it became a home, a choice, a love I could finally hold on to without fear, because I wasn't let go. Not anymore.